welcome to Intermission at Folk Night at the Registry. I'm Jan Vanderhorst. Now let's spend some time with our musical guests tonight, Wendell Ferguson and Katherine Wheatley. Thank you so much for taking this time to be a part of this.
Thank you for having us and presenting us here. Great staff, great everything. And you, we've known for way too long.
Way too long.
Everyone for way too long.
Expiry date is up.
Yeah.
Now the two of you have been touring as a duo for many years, and you're both in the group Betty and the Bobs for many years. When did you first meet?
I had a recording studio outside of Brampton, Norville, Georgetown area from 1980 to 1990, and I was a partner there. And John Switzer, was he producing you there?
He was producing me, and he produced a bunch of Jane Siberry's albums.
Yeah, Jane Siberry's, a bunch of people, Don Fried and that, but he was out there producing you, and I just knew John through that kind of stuff and a few gigs, and then. And it worked out that she had a song that was kind of in a country thing, and he said, well, maybe we should get Wendell to play on this. And that's where we met, me playing on her first album, Straight Line.
Yeah,
and the
Straight
song
Line.
was
Main Street.
Main Street. Yeah, so that's where we met, and that was about 94, 95.
94, I put the album out in 95.
Right, and then I never heard from her for
and I remember I wanted to sing it in A flat, which is a terrible key to do all those country licks in. I think you might have tuned your guitar down a semitone. Is that possible?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
But it was like playing. I had never heard before to hear Wendell play like that, and I had a band at the time. It was David Woodhead and Rich Greenspoon and Shelley Zubat, who all were three of the original members of Betty and the Bobs, which hadn't formed yet, but. I asked Wendell to join us, and I think our first gig was at the Reverb in Toronto, and you played a B-bender. I remember you had a B-bender guitar.
Yeah.
And anyhow, everyone loved him, and so I had to keep him. Yeah, and after the shows, Wendell, after the shows, we'd all pack up and we'd sit and we'd have a drink at the bar, and Wendell would start playing these ridiculous songs, and we just couldn't leave because they were such funny songs. So we started doing some of those songs in my show, and then people wanted.
She made me start to sing.
Yeah, I made you start to sing.
I didn't do that. I just entertained my friends, and she made me start doing them on stage. And I started doing it, and then suddenly I started getting gigs. It's crazy. And then I started hiring her. But and then the duo formed just because we got along fine, and we could. You know what, I have to say, working with Katherine, it touches a lot of bases in my thing, because I can be a total, as the audience has already heard for an hour, asshole and a funny guy and guitar player, but I never get to show the sensitive side of being an accompanist. But when she sings one of her beautiful songs, I can all of a sudden be sensitive again and drop the idiot label. And it's a lot of fun, because this gig satisfies a lot of musical urges for me. You know what I mean? I can still be the idiot and I can still talk, because I'm in a lot of bands where I'm just a guitar player. I don't even get a mic, and luckily, and so I don't mind that role either. It's fun to just be a guitar player.
Right.
But this is nice,
and
because
and you're sort of it in this duo in terms of being the soloist. So you get to solo quite a bit in this duo.
Oh yeah,
which
she doesn't take many.
Thing. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a nice outlet for that, and plus her songs are so beautiful. It's so fun to play on them.
He's a good listener.
That's always good.
He's a very, very good listener. Almost my favorite time to play a song is the very first time we play it, and I introduce it to Wendell on stage, and like there's nothing but listening that's possible, and he just I love his Wendell's listening skills.
Yeah, she used to not trust me in the old days. We'd have to rehearse everything. But now she trusts me, and she'll say, here's the new song. It's in E flat. And I'll go, okay.
Yeah.
And I just listen for a verse and see where she's going, and try and anticipate. And my instincts are pretty good, but sometimes she'll throw a curveball or go somewhere else. Then later I'll say, what was that chord?
Yeah.
But mostly it's a trust situation. And Wheatley was saying one day that when she does a solo show, as I feel too, when you do a solo show, you got to have a little rally backstage with yourself and say, okay, now you got to go out there, you got to be super person, you got to be everything you are, but ramp it up because you have to hit an audience and you have to make them like you. And there's a butterfly factor. And she said that she has the same thing getting ready for an audience, but when we're playing together, that doesn't just go to half, it goes to nothing.
Yeah, it's
There's
nothing.
no worry, because you're relying on the other person to pick you up if you fall down, and they're relying on you to pick you up if you fall down. So there's no more nerves. You just go out and you have a great time.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, getting to, Katherine, to the beginning of your career, you studied to be a geologist. What was it that made you go into music full time?
Well, I got a guitar when I was 13. I started writing songs right away, and I played in a duo through university, but I never imagined that normal people could have careers in music. I just didn't even think of it as a possibility. And I was working as a geologist in Saskatchewan. I worked there quite a bit, and only with one other geologist. We were a two-person team, and looking at rocks all day. And at nighttime, we would put, Ken would map everything and write the reports, and he'd say, just play your guitar. And he played guitar as well, but, and he just turned to me, he said, why aren't you doing music? And I said, and so I said to him, well, why aren't you doing music? Because he played guitar as well. And he said, well, it's not my passion. And it's singularly the most, it's the biggest epiphany I've ever had in my life, was that I was not passionate about rocks. I liked them. Wendell can testify, you can attest to that we stop on the highways and look at rocks. But I didn't even think that you should have a passion about. It didn't occur to me. So that was the moment that I did the switch. It took a couple of years to switch, but.
Now, Wendell, you play all sorts of different styles of guitar, but a big influence for you was Chet Atkins.
When I was a kid, thank you. That's a nice question. I love answering this one because when I was a kid, I was exposed to him because my dad, our first record had one. I usually tell it about tonight when we do, we might have already done it.
Sandman.
Yeah, and Mr. Sandman. Yep. But the first record that entered our house was Chet. But also, my dad bought all his albums and liked them. And so my whole world growing up as a kid, ever heard the new Chet record? Oh, he'd do a Beatles song, all that kind of stuff. I always was exposed to it. And then in later life, I try and pick it up. But I was just, as a kid, I'd use my thumb to pick the strings. And then as I grew up, I broke my thumbnail on a couple of important gigs. So I said, screw this, I'm going to learn to play with a pick. So from the time I was about 17 till I was about 50, I played with a pick. But I finally, around 50, I thought, I'm never going to play like Chet unless I go to a thumb pick. And it's like a 3-year tradition. So you lose all your speed, you lose all your dexterity because you're trying a new technique. And it took me about 3 years to get back, to climb up to where I was. But then I was always working on the Chet stuff. And if you start dissecting his material and taking it apart and learning how he approached music, it's like, that's a lesson itself. Every time you learned a new Chet piece, you learned a new lick, but you also learned a new idea and a new concept. And so I just found that when I started writing my own songs, they had Chet-isms in them because, you just had I don't know, it was like a thing. And I'm not putting myself on that pedestal, but he was just great. And that kind of stuff really excited me. So, but when I was about 50, I went to a thumb pick and I started learning all that stuff. And then I got into Jerry Reed and Merle Travis and all that stuff. So I find I'm such a dinosaur. Everybody else moves forward in music and I'm kind of always moving back. Who did Chet listen to? Oh, Ike Everly. Okay. The father of the Everly Brothers. Okay. Mose Rager. I kind of, she's a geologist. I'm more of an archaeologist.
Did you ever get to meet Chet Atkins?
I saw him live.
Okay.
I never met him. No, but I know a bunch of people who know him. And actually, I did a thing for the Toronto Fingerstyle Guitars Association one time, and I brought up a guy named Barry Hogan, who's just passed this year. He was a RCA rep back out in the prairies in the 60s, and he won a couple of contests to sales records, and he got a trip to Nashville, and he wanted to meet Chet, and he wanted to meet Boots Randolph and Floyd Kramer. That was his, he worked for their label and he went up there. And he said he went into Studio B and he's walking around. He said to the secretary, is Chet here? I said, no, Chet's out right now. Oh, darn, I really want to meet him. And she said, well, have a look around. Take it, you're a member of the company. Go ahead.
Right.
And so he's looking around. He's getting himself a coffee. And the guy said, pour me a cup of that. And he looked and it was Boots Randolph. And he goes, oh, Boots Randolph. He said, you know this guy? And he turned around and there was Floyd Kramer. And he said, do you guys know this guy? And there was Chet right there. And Chet said, oh, you're in Canada. Yeah, come on up to the office. We'll talk. And he said he took him up for a couple hours and they yapped about, he was a businessman. He was a head of RCA. And he's going, what's sales like? What's moving? How's that record doing up there and all that? And he said, they spent 2 hours. And from then on, they formed a relationship. Whenever he'd come to Toronto to play at the Royal York, at the Black Knight Room or the Beverly Hills, he said, they were going to send an underling to pick him up at the airport. He says, no, he's the vice president. I'm getting him. So he'd go and bring him. And he said they had a great relationship over the years. But just by association, I never met him.
Right. And we only have about a minute. Katherine, you have the Women's Music Weekend coming up later on this year. What do you're one of the instructors, facilitators.
Yeah.
What do you get out of it, out of that whole weekend?
Well, I would say number one is connection. So a lot of just the women connect around supporting each other if they're writing songs, if they're trying to do some solos for the first time, if they're joining a band. Some people we put these little pickup bands together, and some people will play the bass for the first time in a song, and they'll work on it all weekend, and harmonies. So they really get to know each other and support each other, and I think they stay connected with each other, and that's just a lovely thing, is that people find inspiration, they find a home in music, and they connect with other people that are in it. If you have music, as you guys know, you've got friends, and that's kind of what it's about.
All right.
I mean, look at all the friends you have for music, eh?
I don't have any, but you have a lot.
I mean, we're all lucky, all of us here in music. We all have lots of friends.
On that note, we are all out of time. Thank you so much for this. Now it's time for the second half of the concert.
If you don't go home.